so we dabbled with the idea of getting involved in the esports space here in Australia, and then there was this obvious synergy with our great friends at the NBA, who we already do so much with. And the NBA has this amazing history of taking that brand to a global sporting audience. The NBA, under David Stern's leadership as commissioner, and then subsequently Adam Silver's leadership, has become one of the most recognised sporting brands anywhere on the planet. It's no longer a US sporting product, it has been a global sporting product for decades. So who's most likely to take an esports brand to the world and make it truly global and international? Well, it stands to reason that it will be the NBA 2K League. They've got all the IP and the know-how right there. So we're thrilled to be involved, and Brendan, I'll hand over to you to talk about the rationale from the NBA's point of view.
Yes, so again, thank you all for being here. I will say, love being in the country. We're having a blast here. I don't want to go home, frankly. But I'll take a half a step back in terms of just so everyone understands what the NBA 2K League is. So just to put it in perspective, roughly 30 million people will go and download the 2K title every single year. And so what we do is we find now the top 125 players in the world through a long tryout process, and kind of the cream rises to the top. And so, and the NBL Oz Gaming will now have 5 of those players. And so we take those players, they get paid a salary, they're given housing in their respective markets, they have benefits, they have retirement plans, and then in addition to all that, they start the chase towards a $2.5 million prize pool that they can qualify based on performance. So it gives you an idea of kind of how professional it is. And the cool thing is we've actually hosted tryouts in the APAC region. And frankly, every time we hosted tryouts in APAC, the majority of players were from Australia and New Zealand. And that's not surprising given the broader basketball fandom that exists, but it just got us more excited about what the potential is here. And then I will say that just, from a basketball perspective, we have all the data. It's so obvious. Every time you watch NBA All-Star games, NBA Finals, etc., the amount of fandom here in Australia is off the charts, up 50%, up 100% every year. And so we knew we could take the NBA 2K League to Australia, but it made a lot more sense having a partner like the NBL, who frankly is a case study in sports for transforming and reinventing a league. And what they've done recently over the last 7-8 years, and maybe I'm getting that right. Record attendance, record viewership. Frankly, they're one of the biggest drivers of the NBA and basketball being so big in the region. And so it was just logical for us to create the partnership. And so we're thrilled about. Yesterday was our initial announcement, and so happy to answer any questions as we finish up here.
I think just to dovetail into that as well, the growth trajectory of both of our respective codes is very, very steep. And NBA 2K is the 3rd highest selling console game in the country. We're massive consumers of the product compared to the rest of the world outside of the US.
Number one outside of North America, it's the number 1 country in the world.
And similarly, Australia has the largest subscription base to NBA League Pass, so the following of the league is huge as well. And now the following of the NBL has also become exponentially greater, as Brendan alluded to, over the last 7 years, both viewership and attendance. Participation in basketball is growing exponentially here in Australia also. Everything is trending in that right direction. From an esports point of view, Australia is still a pretty immature market, but we think we're right at the catching the wave at just the right point. And someone needed to take a leadership position and put Australia on the global map from an esports point of view. And that's what really excites us about it, is there's a global play to this, and there's a local play to it as well, which is all around community. And one of the things we're really excited about is basically being a custodian of NBA 2K and the 2K League here in Australia, and playing a role in terms of developing the grassroots participation base. So yes, the announcement is around a pro team in the NBA 2K League, but what's still to come is all of the news and expansion around grassroots participation. We're going to be all over the country with this, running grassroots tournaments for everyone, all around the country, with an aspiration to identifying the best talent, because we want them in our team, and if they're not in our team, we want them in another team in the NBA 2K League.
We're definitely going to touch more on the grassroots aspect. You both sort of talked about why that partnership between NBL and NBA 2K is so important, and you're both obviously very passionate about both sides of it. The NBL is the 25th league, a 25th team into this league, into the 2K league. Can we talk about how this process started, from where the league was to the 125 teams there are now? Maybe Brendan?
Yeah, of course. So the league is now, we just completed our 5th season. We started with 17 teams, all NBA owned. Quickly got to 21, and now we're at 20. The NBL is now our 25th team. 22 of those are NBA owned. 3 of them are new franchises outside of the NBA family. So, our viewpoint is, we envision a day where certainly all 30 teams in the NBA will be involved, but we envision, a European division and a division, around Australia and Oceania, in Latin America, et cetera. And so, that's the beauty of esports, is it's somewhat more limitless in terms of what we can do. And I will tell you, and I told Jeremy earlier this morning, I've already gotten, since the announcement yesterday, there are plenty of NBA teams that are dying to play NBL Aus gaming in the States and here, maybe probably more importantly. We're thrilled about that part of the partnership. And then, was there another part of the question I want to make sure I touch on?
I was saying you both already touched on the popularity of the NBA in Australia, and I guess you're saying that the natural next step is the NBL for NBA, for the NBA league, because of the popularity here?
Yeah, and actually I should have said that. Yes. So the other piece of this, which is super exciting, what I'm finding and talking to everyone, here about just kind of the excitement of this announcement is, keep in mind now we've opened the door to, NBL Oz Gaming is going to play Lakers gaming, Knicks gaming, et cetera. And so that's a really exciting thing. And I think I've noticed just this sense of excitement and pride around taking an Australia franchise and kind of conquering the NBA world. I think that's a pretty exciting moment. And so I didn't appreciate that until I really, as much as I have since I've been here.
I don't know who saw it, but just the other day, we had an NBL team, the Adelaide 36ers. Adelaide 36ers beat the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, I know. It deserves a round of applause, right? And it's the first time an NBL team has ever beaten an NBA team, and you don't reckon I'm chomping at the bit to have NBL Oz Gaming take on an NBA team, and to have our brand and a kangaroo in the green and gold and NBL and Oz up there in lights with the Bulls and the Lakers and the Pistons and all the others. That's so exciting. And to be, along there with Gen G, who's Shanghai-based, and Dux Infinitos out of Mexico City, we're the 3rd international team in what is going to be a massive esports league. And the benefit of esports, I'm sure, is not lost on anyone tuning into this, but it's borderless. And there's not many sports where Australia is not afflicted by the tyranny of distance, right? Or population. But now we have a global audience, and now we can play from anywhere in the world. And I should clarify to begin with, our team's going to be, during the season, will be located in the US. All off-season will be here in Australia. But it's not long before the latency between Australia and the US means we'll be able to relocate this team permanently to Australia. But how cool is that then? We can be able to play against the biggest brands in the world from here in Australia, from venues like this and others around the country. You'll all be able to attend professional esports games and support a local team playing against those enormous brands. The opportunities are limitless, and I'm just glad to be there at the beginning of the wave.
Obviously, one thing we can take from what you're saying is that this opportunity is connecting the community, the gaming community here in Australia to the US, to the world. You mentioned there's 3 other teams that are...
2 others.
Who are the 3 other teams that are not America and Australia?
Dux Infinitos out of Mexico
Dux Infinitos, they joined last year. They represent Mexico City. And then the Gen G Tigers of Shanghai, who are a very big esports brand across, I think, 9 different games. And they were the original non-NBA team to join the league.
Amazing. What's something special that you can tell our fans, that they might not necessarily know about the league and why this is so special?
I'd say a couple things. One is you don't need to play 2K to love the NBA 2K league. It is if you watch, we have a sizzle video you can see, but if you watch our competition, if you love basketball, you're going to love it. We pride ourselves in having a very different setup. You'll see probably today several competitions where the stage is kind of flat across. Our stage is a circle, so we have 5-on-5 and 3-on-3. We do both modes of the game, but our players are sitting 12 feet away, face-to-face with their opponent, and it takes on a life of its own. There's a lot of trash talk. There's a lot of excitement. It's a very vibrant atmosphere, I'll say. And so we think that's very unique to us in esports, and it's very much akin to basketball culture. So we're excited about bringing that live, to fans here. And the other thing I think we're also excited about is, like I mentioned earlier, we've hosted tryouts in the region, and just the talent that exists in Australia, it's just outsized versus it's a significant amount of talent that exists here. And I think what the NBL is going to do is, we had an Australia-born player drafted in 2021, Milo, who may be here today.
Shout out to Milo. He's sitting just a few rows up there.
Okay,
Milo, you here?
Yeah. So Milo kind of broke that barrier. But I think what we're going to see now is it just becomes more real. Now that you see NBL Oz Gaming wearing that jersey with pride and representing the country, I think now that 15 and 16-year-old is going to have aspirations to be a part of the team. And so I think it makes it more real and more tangible. And I think players like Milo have set that up. It's amazing. We were talking yesterday about just how far it's come already since he tried out in Hong Kong a couple of years ago. Fast forward to now, there's a franchise in his country. And so I think that's the one piece that's harder to realize how the impact is going to be for several years now. Jeremy mentioned a few moments ago, the globalization of the NBA is directly correlated to a moment in time when the Dream Team happened. Back in 1992, when the Dream Team was put together and the world saw the NBA and touched and felt the NBA, and fast forward to now, it's the Tony Parkers of the world. It's now you see 3 lottery picks, from the NBL the last 3 years. The globalization of the NBA all goes back to that. And so that moment in time has changed the sport. And so we're hopeful now that the NBL will have that same impact for the NBA 2K League.
Yeah, and for me, what made the league so appealing, its fundamental difference to so many other products out there, is its accessibility, right? So anyone can walk into a room and see someone playing NBA 2K and they get it immediately. There's a reason that soccer and basketball are the 2 most participated sports in the world, because you can play them from a very young age because they're very intuitive. You've got a ball in your hands, you put it in the bucket. You've got a ball on the floor, you kick it in the goal. It's pretty straightforward. And so anyone who's got a familiarity with the sport, which, let's face it, there's I can't think of how many professional leagues there are for traditional basketball around the world now. There's a huge number, though, and it covers basically the whole world. Everyone understands basketball. And that's been the case for, it's a 100-year-old sport. Happens to be that there's a fantastic simulator in that space now. But parents, for example, are much more accepting of young kids playing a basketball simulator than they are of a shoot-'em-up title. Sponsors are much more comfortable coming into a title like NBA 2K than something that maybe the decision maker at that organisation doesn't understand, a League of Legends or a Minecraft or a World of Warcraft. This is just infinitely accessible to everyone. Players, parents, sponsors, governments, and obviously our fans.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to have a look at the hype reel, and then we'll continue the questions.
The NBA 2K League. The 2022 season was our biggest season yet. More tournaments, more champions, more money on the line. Now, 2023 is on the horizon, and we didn't just go bigger. We're turning the whole thing upside down. Down under. Welcome to Australia. Or should we say, Australia, welcome to the NBA 2K League. Our Our newest team is the NBL, Australia and New Zealand's preeminent professional basketball league. Introducing NBL Aus Gaming.
I hope that gets you guys as excited as I am. We've touched on the fact that obviously there was tryouts held. We've got our special guest Milo in the room. What can you guys tell us about the caliber of talent and this process of drafting people into this league?
Yeah, so we've changed it every year. Frankly, we've iterated to make it more effective. So our original first season, we had the tryout literally happen inside the game, and we had 72,000 people try out for 102 spots. And we were looking at stats across 60 different metrics, not just points, rebounds, and assists, but how perfect your shot release was, how effective you were, and how efficient you were on defense. And so we've continued to iterate on that every year. And so now we'll continue to have that in-game tryout, but we'll also have local tryouts. We've had international tryouts here in the region as well. And so all those opportunities are going to exist for players to show off their skills. And then what was new this year for season 5 was, frankly, we were a little late to the game compared to the rest of esports, maybe even in this building, is we allowed for the first time ever, we had qualifiers before all of our 3v3 tournaments. So anyone from home with 2 of their friends who thought they were good enough could go through a gauntlet of kind of 3v3 fans, also who love to play the game and play at a high level, and top teams advanced to tournaments against 2K League teams. So really kind of first of its kind for us, but something we're going to continue on in the future. And so, and then frankly, we have what I would argue is maybe the most exciting draft in esports, where we have, a little after the first of the year, NBL Aus Gaming, along with the other 24 teams, will fill out their rosters with a draft that we do every year, and we pull out all the bells and whistles in terms of what you might see from an NBA draft. Players pick up, they come up on the stage, they pick up their hat, they put it on for the first time. It's a spectacular event, and the one that we take a lot of pride in. And so you'll be able to see that now, and you'll be able to see NBL Aus Gaming fill out their roster a little after the first of the year.
And you just continue to see all these synergies between what the NBA 2K League is doing and what we do. And one of them that Brendan alluded to then was 3x3 basketball in NBA 2K and in the NBA 2K League. And completely by coincidence, that parallels exactly what we're doing here in Australia with the NBL and the 3x3 hustle. So we have 5 tiers of participation in 3x3 basketball, which is now an Olympic and Commonwealth Games sport, by the way. So it's a massive deal, and it's only going to get bigger. But same as in the title, you start at the community level in 3x3, and you can work your way all the way up to the 3x3 Pro Hustle, end up representing the country potentially at the Olympic Games. Well, exactly the same concept is available in NBA 2K and in the NBA 2K League. The parallels are just very obvious, and what we think we bring to the equation is we've got this real penchant, I guess, or where what we think we're good at is a combination of high performance, entertainment, and then fan engagement. That's how we've dragged the NBL out of the mud over the last 8 years and made it a top-tier sporting product here in Australia again. It's exactly the same strategy with the NBA 2K League. You start with that high-performance element of finding the best players in the country, in the world, and then putting them on a platform where you can truly engage with your fans in a meaningful way. We love all the social media products and the Twitch product that NBA 2K League have out there, and we can't wait to extend our know-how to introducing you all to all of our social platforms as well, because what it's all about at the end of the day is engaging with our audience and developing a new fan base. So if you haven't already, jump on the website for NBL Aus Gaming, register your interest, follow us on all the socials. NBL Aus Gaming, there's not really another handle like it. It's pretty unique, so easy to find, and we can't wait to see you all active on those accounts.
Obviously, sounds like there's a lot of synergy between the NBL and NBA 2K League. We can understand why that partnership was such a great idea, and 5 years in, it's clearly not slowing down. You both touched on a few moments ago about that grassroots connection and engaging that community. How is that something that this league is going to be touching on, and what are those sort of steps going to look like to engage with those grassroots communities?
I'm sorry.
Grassroots.
The
I'll go first.
grassroots.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So firstly, we're going to be having competitions all around the country on a pretty regular cadence. So the season goes for a few months, 3 or 4 months, 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
Yeah, that leaves 8 months of the year for us to be here in country with hopefully with a few of our players on a pretty consistent basis. But we're going to be getting around the country, not just identifying the best talent, that's obviously the ultimate objective, but just ensuring that more people are engaging with the title and more people are playing NBA 2K on a genuinely competitive basis. Some of that will be remote, which is another thing that I love about the title, is that you can patch in from anywhere and play with or against your mates. Not just in arcade mode, but in a genuine league or tournament format as well. But there'll be a significant number of in-person events as well, and we're very lucky in this country that maybe a little bit later than elsewhere around the world, but people now are really starting to invest in some fun facilities. Obviously, there's a great one here in Fortress in Melbourne where we had the brand launch yesterday, but those similar kind of facilities are popping up everywhere. And we can't wait to put them to really good use and get around and make sure everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, and I would say in terms of the grassroots piece, our entire brand strategy the last 12 months has all been about engaging the wider part of the 2K player funnel. Everything we've done. And we shifted to, we were all 5-on-5 the first 4 seasons. We added 3v3, one, because it's a new and exciting game mode. It's a totally different type of game. But in addition to that, we found that 51% of the player base in 2K plays 3v3. And so we actually found out it was a totally different audience. And so, so that was one step. And the other big step was, like I mentioned, opening up for qualifiers. It was, we kind of, the first 4 seasons held our then 24 teams kind of sacred. But now, we think there's a huge benefit in connecting the player base, those 30 million people that download the game and the 2 million plus that play it every day. We wanted to engage them with the 2K League and make it more accessible and more attainable. And frankly, that player who's sitting at home who thinks, hey, I'm as good as that player, now they can prove it. And so that making the 2K League accessible was the word I think Jeremy used earlier. That's our entire grassroots efforts. And so now we've even taken it a step further. Now we are integrated into the retail copy of the game. So if you go home today and put on 2K23, you go inside what they call the city, and there's a 2K League building you can walk into. You can buy merchandise. You can buy virtual goods with Knicks gaming or Lakers gaming on it, and put it on your virtual player. Soon we'll have NBL Oz gaming items as well. And I will say, on social media amongst the 2K League fan base, they're falling in love with the menacing kangaroo. It's going viral, so we're excited about that too.
We did have a journalist from the States the other day ask whether that was a kangaroo, and I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, wow, come on, surely you guys know kangaroos in Australia, there's a synergy there. But exceeding my expectations, that journalist then said, I wasn't sure if it was a kangaroo or a wallaby. And I was like, whoa, actually your Australian knowledge is right up there, well done, kudos to you.
You guys touched on the tryout process earlier. Maybe Brendan, in the US, that tryout process, is that something that's going to be the same for what's going to be happening here in Australia for people who want to be part of the league?
Yeah, so Jeremy and the NBL Oz team, they'll have the opportunity to do local tryouts no different than any one of our 24 teams across the league. So yeah, I would imagine we'll have local tryouts as well. I'm sure more news to come soon about kind of what that'll look like, but yes, that's fully expected.
And at this point, if anyone wants to find out more about it, they can jump onto the website.
Jump on the website, register your interest. There's going to be a huge amount of information to follow, all kinds of things still to come, locations, dates for tournaments. But yeah, qualifying through into the draft pool is a really exciting concept. So that's something that we're really looking to make the most of here in Australia and to give everyone their opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of opportunities over the next 4 or 5 months, whether it's in New Jersey, whether it's, the expansion draft, the new roster, the actual draft. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to engage.
And I think that's one of the cool things too, is now we're giving maybe even parents a real understanding of the fact that these are genuine opportunities to develop a career in esports, whether that's as a player or as a coach or even around the production of the content or fan engagement associated with esports. This is a thriving industry that is still really just at its point of genesis here in a pretty immature market. And as I said earlier, I think we're getting on board at the right time because it's about to explode. We've had so much interest all around the country from various state governments saying, hey, come and have a conversation with us before you have a conversation with anyone else, because we want to be the esports state, or we want to be the esports city. There's a reason for that. It creates jobs. It's creating opportunities for education, training, infrastructure. That's what we're really looking for, is who wants to partner with us. We've brought a platform now to really cultivate this industry. And as I said earlier, we don't do anything by halves. We're going to go at this very hard. And we know now that there are community and government partners out there looking to line up and do the same with us.
I can, as a long-time basketball fan, I can definitely attest to the fact that the NBL doesn't do things by halves. I've seen their games, I've seen their marketing, and as a platform, they're doing some absolutely incredible things. So the fact that you've now created another platform, another avenue for income streams for gamers, for those who are interested in gaming or basketball is a fantastic opportunity. And as you said, for those who are obviously avid gamers, the fact that it's not just a hobby anymore, it's now an opportunity to make money for themselves, for their families, and consider themselves a professional, and then potentially take their skills overseas.
And to travel and see the world. It's become, basketball is so popular here now because of the fact that Aussies are taking it to the best in the world on the global stage, whether that's in the NBA or the EuroLeague or the Olympics or here at the NBL, and NBL teams are now traveling the globe as well. What a fantastic way to do something that you love, make a living, travel the world, and then those skills are directly transferable too after you finish playing, coaching, production, management. Australia are sports fanatics, and esports is not going to be any different. I'm convinced of that. And it's just a matter of everyone getting behind it now and supporting it.
And I think what's fascinating, you saw that sizzle video a few minutes ago, and you'll see the 10 players on the court there around the stage. But on that day in particular, there's another 75 people around that event that are working, whether it's production, whether it's content creation, influencers, capturing the event. So I think that's why we're also seeing, when we started the NBA 2K League, I think there was about 60 college programs that were developing esports programs, and now that number is probably 4 or 5x what it was in just the last 5 years. So I think you're going to continue to see that, just the opportunity that exists. That's all, to Jeremy's point, it's all new jobs outside of just the players themselves.
I mean, obviously, the last couple of years have been pretty slow across the globe with the pandemic, and I'm sure there would have been people who were gaming, whether it was a new hobby or an old hobby. So this is incredible to now have this opportunity to take it forward, and maybe something they picked up during COVID, during those lockdown times.
Yeah, I mean, the major events industry and running a basketball league was incredibly challenging during COVID, and part of me looks back and wishes maybe we could have done this deal 3 years ago. I mean, we only started talking about it 2 years ago and literally COVID hit, but had we snuck in just before COVID, this would have been an amazing opportunity to just leverage the platform even further, but we're happy to be on board now.
Timing is everything. So, I mean, you've touched on it, both of you have sort of touched on it already, but Brendan, what's next for the 2K League?
Listen, I think we're just scratching the surface. I mean, I think there are so many different opportunities, whether it's continued global expansion. I do think retail integration is going to be a big one for us over the next couple of years. We made this adjustment, which I think is a transformative one, of going 3v3, of allowing qualifiers to play in our league. I think that was, we did that for the first time last year. I think we can go much deeper than that. And then, frankly, I think just being able to engage in some of these markets. For example, like we are ill-equipped to truly take full advantage of having the NBA 2K League come to life in Australia. We were ill-equipped to do that on our own. So I think that's a perfect example. There's so many. Jeremy and I could sit here for 4 hours talking about all the different things we can do together. Whether it's the NBL, the NBA, 2K the game, the 2K Australia group we were talking yesterday. There's literally limitless opportunities. So I think it's going to be fun, just kind of bringing that all to life.
And I guess in terms of what comes next for us, we've got to put together a roster. So get out there and start grinding, because we're going to want to see you competing to be in that draft pool. But yeah, coach is another very important one. GM of Esports for the NBL, based here in Australia, Guy Neville, who's in the crowd and who's done an amazing job of pulling all of this together. And we'll have a GM of I guess, team operations in the States as well. But the bit that I'm really excited about is having the discussions now about where we're going to be located. That means, training facilities, headquarters, grassroots activities, and when it becomes feasible, our home court to play competitively from Australia. And the questions that need to be asked when we start looking around those sorts of elements of this team are much the same as when we're looking at expansion opportunities for the NBL itself. And we're getting pretty good at that now. We launched the Tasmania Jack Jumpers last NBL season, and in their first season they made it through to the NBL finals. So we're starting to develop a bit of an art in terms of expansion, and it's the same sorts of things. You've got to look for that alignment of infrastructure, public interest from a fan and consumer point of view, corporate interest from a sponsor point of view, and then I guess government interest, who's going to get behind us and really leverage this platform that we've developed. And we're doing our part, and now we're putting the challenge out there for others to partner with us in investing in training and in infrastructure that underpin what is going to be Australia's advancement into the global esports market.
I mean, shout out to the Jack Jumpers, because anybody that can give Sydney a run for their money is pretty good in my eyes. You just touched on location a moment ago. Is there an idea of where the location will be, or head office, or those sorts of things for the Oz League?
We have no predetermined destination for headquarters or for training facilities. We're out in market now trying to determine where is the best place and why. And ultimately, it all comes down to timing as well, because I mentioned earlier, esports is the one opportunity where the tyranny of distance won't hold us back. It'll hold us back for just a short amount of time until we get that latency down between probably the east coast of the US, east coast of Australia and the west coast of the US. But that's something that we're working on right now. We've got fantastic tech partners here in Australia who are trying to solve that equation, and
I would say, and in the interim, we're going to be hosting events. We'll definitely find opportunities to do events, engage the local audience here. Like I mentioned, this morning, the announcement happened yesterday. We already have some of our NBA 2K League teams that are like, hey, can I be the first team to play the Aussies? And so we have no shortage of interest in hosting games here as well.
Incredible. I mean, I think you guys have heard it. Retail integration, 3-on-3. There is an abundance of opportunities with this new partnership. What we're going to do now is cross to you guys. If there is any questions that you have for Jeremy or Brendan, just put your hand up and we'll bring a mic over. If there isn't, that's okay. But if there is anything you want to ask, this is your opportunity. It's a little hard for me to see, so you may have to stand up. We've got a question, at the front and at the back. I'll just bring the mic down here to the front, if that's okay. I think this is probably the best way to start connecting to the community. Go for it.
open fire.
Hey guys, how are we doing? Jeremy, question for you. I got a settled debate here. Is the NBL a cupcake league?
Ha! Where is Corey Homicide Williams when you need him? I should have worn my t-shirt that says the NBL is not a cupcake league. And importantly, neither is the NBA 2K League, and NBL Oz Gaming are not going to be a walkover in terms of a team either.
And a follow-up question, when can I play as Chris Golding in the game?
That's a very good question. I don't think you'll be able to play as an NBL player in the near future, but we're having conversations about how we get the NBL more integrated into the title. Really positive advancement though, you can currently play as a Boomer, so you can get Chris Golding's Boomers jersey in game now.
And I'll say you can currently play with Gen G and Dukes Infinito, so you can wear their jerseys in the game. So I would think the NBL Oz Gaming is right around the corner.
Thank you. And then I think we had another question at the back, just on this side. Was there anyone else that had a question? Okay.
Hey guys. Quick question just regarding grassroots promotion and things like that. Recently you had like Dr. Disrespect doing some streams on his channel in the game, because obviously he's featured in the game. But talking about more local content creators, are you looking at doing sponsored streams to promote not just the game, but also the league and things like that?
Yeah, so we, I would say we currently do that. We do a lot of co-streaming. We in fact have we have a community ambassador. His name, he goes by BFW, Black Frank White, and so he does a weekly show where he brings in 2K influencers from all over. In fact, we yesterday at the Fortress, we were meeting with a few of the influencers, local influencers, and frankly, it's a great opportunity for us to pull them into our broadcast and feature them, pull them onto BFW Live on that weekly broadcast as well. So yeah, I think we're definitely going to lean into that. And to me, the local influence. In fact, we had Ticino, who's a huge 2K influencer, actually play in some of our exhibitions during the season. This past season we just finished, and we had him doing some co-streaming as well. So yeah, we absolutely lean into tapping into influencers and their audiences and showing them the 2K League, and co-streaming and is just one of the many ways we do that.
Yesterday we had some great content with Milo playing against one of the NBL's streamers, goes by the name Finesse Main, but he's a synonymous local basketball streamer, and then having Milo, who's associated with the NBA 2K. Those are the kinds of crossovers that we're looking to do more frequently. But yes, absolutely, sponsored content is something that we're going to want to get into in a pretty substantive way. Guy Neville, who I mentioned earlier, is going to be running our esports business. He used to run all of our, or to some extent still does, runs all of our digital content across the NBL League. And if you look at where we punch above our weight and where we've made real inroads in the Australian market, as compared to the behemoths of Australian sport in the AFL and NRL, I think it's in our digital content. So we're going to look to be pretty innovative in that space. It's certainly something that we're very conscious of because our fan base, both of NBL but also of NBA 2K League, skews younger than most products here. We know that our fan base is very active on social, and we know that there are some great streamers here in Australia. We can't wait to partner with you all.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say too, we do some great stuff around, our content team does around, we call it draft hopefuls. In fact, I think Milo might have even been one of them in the past. We do a draft hopefuls segment as well. And so to me, I think the idea of doing content around the building of the new franchise here with NBL Oz Gaming, it is so rich with content in terms of how kind of you go from yesterday's announcement to competing on the digital court in just about 6 months' time. So yeah, there's oodles of opportunity for content.
Another question up the back there? Yeah.
Yeah. I just had a query about whether you have any strategies in terms of converting the non-believers out there. I know as a parent at a school, most parents I know are using sport as a way to get kids out of lounge rooms and off screens. And I'm an avid supporter of esports and stuff, but it's very hard to get them to convince it's a legitimate task, I suppose. So I'm just wondering, how do you perceive trying to get that massive jump over into the mainstream that way?
That's a great question, and it's a conversation that I had on ABC Sport yesterday with Catherine Murphy. Asked the same question around, do you think that this will aid growing participation numbers for basketball as well, and vice versa? And I absolutely think it does. And in fact, I've seen it firsthand. In fact, going back a generation, I lived it firsthand. I played NBA 2K as a kid growing up, and then I'd go out and play in my local court, and then that's what got me into playing competitively, and that's what turned me into a fan. And now I'm living that with my children who do both as well. One of them, interestingly, started with basketball and ended up becoming an NBA 2K guy because he liked his basketball. The other one actually was a bit younger. He started playing NBA 2K, and now he's a mad basketball fan. So I do think there's a legitimate conversation to be had there about this is a sports simulator as well as a game. The strategies apply. The skill set is different, but the strategy applies. I know that the Golden State Warriors 2K League team, either the current coach or a former coach, was the assistant coach from their G League team as well. It was a basketball coach coaching an esports team. So the strategy also relies a little bit on our competitive advantage as the NBL, don't laugh when I say this, as compared to the NBA, because we can actually use NBL players to help promote the NBL Oz Gaming team. So that means Chris Golding can go and play a bit of NBA 2K with a student in a school, and then step out onto a court and play the real thing with them as well. So we're planning on leveraging the NBL and our players who already have a huge interest in NBA 2K. They all sit around playing, well, I shouldn't say all, I know that there's a huge number of them that sit around playing NBA 2K on a regular basis. And I can't wait to sort of share this news with them and start to gauge their interest, because I know they're going to want to get out there and have some fun.
Yeah, and I'd echo that by saying, you know, there's somewhat of a myth of this notion of esports being associated with a sedentary lifestyle. I mean, the majority of our players, many of them are former college athletes themselves, who wanted to kind of continue their passion for basketball into the 2K League. And so, and I will say too, in order to be a good 2K League player, your basketball IQ is off the charts. So you know, we've seen a lot of former basketball players now playing for the 2K League, even coaching for the 2K League. So yeah, and the other thing I'd say too is the other important thing to I think the difference between, you know, again, aging myself, when I started playing video games versus now, is events like this. I mean, it is no longer an individual playing a game. It is a community. You know, when you play 2K, you are oftentimes playing with 9 other human beings around the world. And so I think, and this convention is a perfect example of that. A lot of people will be here today meeting people they play with online, maybe for the first time, but this is a convention that brings those people together. So I think it's communal. Number 2, we think it does promote just the love of basketball.
Is that all the questions? They've been some absolutely fantastic questions, and I think especially that last one with everything that you know, schools and parents worry about, and when it comes to their kids and spending too much screen time, I think that's something very valid to be asking. But the fact that basketball is such an inclusive sport, and you know, you don't necessarily have to be the most skilled player, but you can just jump out on that court. You can play one-on-one. You play by yourself, or you could pick up with, you know, random people that are at the court. Now the opportunity to play on, you know, on the screen as well with people from all over the world. I feel like there's no better way within that gaming community to connect.
I heard the comment yesterday, which I hadn't heard before, was that the E in esports means it's for everyone. And that's what we say about basketball as well. We pride ourselves on being inclusive. You can pick up a basketball from a very young age. We have always been there for people regardless of ability, gender, ethnicity. You know, everyone gets it. Everyone comes together in that melting pot on the basketball court, and I think esports is exactly the same.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up. E is for everyone. The stigma of gaming, you know, this is an opportunity for it to change. Really appreciate you guys being here. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to interview both of you. Brendan, for coming all the way from the States. You know, for everyone who's able to be here and witness you speaking to us is a really special opportunity. So thank you so much. Can we give them a round of applause?
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming. Thanks, Bertha.
Very, very exciting time for gamers and especially for the NBL gaming community. So thank you so much for coming, and hoping that you guys have found something interesting out of this. And, you know, hope you're excited for what's to come with the NBA 2K League.
Thank you all for coming.